It's no secret, honestly, if you're on LinkedIn, that a very strategic way to actually create more awareness, like build your brand, is through commenting.
What do we need to work for the strategy to work?
I mean, I advise everybody to take a good look at their profile page first. Say the comment resonates, they click on your profile to visit you. What if that message isn't strong enough to say what it is you do and who you help?
Hey, Allison, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So what would you say is your claim to fame?
Claim to fame, I would say, is especially around town, going to events in person and doing speaking events. A lot of people will come up to me and say, hey, you're the LinkedIn girl. Like, that's how I know you. And it didn't start out that way. Honestly, in building my business, I was really focused on SEO writing, actually, and kind of consulting from that perspective with different companies. But over the past few years, it has, kind of come to this place of me being this LinkedIn personal branding coach, because I've been on the platform. I've used it a lot. So when people say that, I actually am like, that's great. That's working, right? Like, what I'm doing is working. So that's what I would say is my claim to fame.
Yeah, I get the same thing with folks in my network. I don't do any business locally, but people see my content locally and they, Justin's the LinkedIn guy. I'm like the only one in our area that is as active as I am. So this podcast is about content marketing, right? So what are content programs that are getting results for folks, and how do you see this? And we're going to be talking about something very specific on LinkedIn, which is commenting. And this is something, you have some examples. And so you could say, is that content marketing? I'm not going to split hairs today over that. I am going to say that if you are using LinkedIn as a content marketing team, where you need to be able to also get good at commenting. You're here because this is something you do. It's something I do. And if it's not content marketing, it's extremely close to it. And it informs it, right? It plays very well with it. So let's talk about that today.
I don't think I'm the only one that you'll come across when you're looking at some of the LinkedIn, I call them gurus, people who've been doing this 5-10 years on the platform and have been building like really big audiences and have been studying the algorithms. But it's no secret, honestly, if you're on LinkedIn, that a very strategic way to actually create more awareness, like build your brand, is through commenting. And like you said, I do find it as a form of content, but only in the instances probably when you're being a little bit more intentional and strategic with what you're saying. Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I'm sure you have been on the platform and have noticed sometimes, like, reading people's posts and then starting to get in the comment section, people say things like, great stuff, love it, thank you, like 2-word answers. Okay. And that's not what I'm talking about. When you're trying to be strategic with your commenting, I think those quick responses are often said from a place of like good intentions. However, this is something I talk about every time I do a speaking event, is actually like, there's no room when you leave comments like that to continue the conversation. And so by actually giving something more thoughtful and adding to the conversation, or even like giving your experience around something similar, based on that post, that right there allows people to read that comment and go, oh, cool. Like, I need to look at their profile. I need to check out what they do or where they're from, or, something about it sparked enough interest that then that then caused someone to click and see more about you. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying, like, being really strategic and intentional with your comments. And that often, means more words, not just the 2-word comment, but something that's definitely giving us more information to go on to want to reach out to you.
This is something I have experience with. I'm by no means very good at it. I wouldn't consider myself very good at it, but it does lead to profile views. I will say there's a direct connection between making, I like the way you put that, strategic comments, and then what that leads to profile views. Can you give us an example of how this can work? Best case scenario, what have you seen?
Okay, so I'll give you a story, an example of something that happened just this year when I was on the platform. So I think one of the big reasons people come to me to work with them on their LinkedIn personal branding is they want more clients. It's a lot of founders, business owners who have, owned their business for 5 or more years, And they're in this place of knowing LinkedIn is the place to be, but not quite understanding like how to make it work for them in the limited time that they have. And so what I like to tell them is, here's this example of I was looking at some companies close to me. I was just doing a search based on some people that I was connected with, kind of going down the rabbit hole a little bit and starting to look at companies really close to where I live. And I noticed this one company and left a comment on the business page post, actually. And I just added, to it. They were talking about giving jobs to local people. And I actually didn't say anything very hugely profound, but more of like, this is wonderful to see. Like there's opportunities here very close to us. It's great that you're able to bring in this many people. So it was more of like a compliment, you could say, like in the comment. And it wasn't long after that their business development manager actually reached out to me in the DMs and said, "Hey, I noticed your comment on our business page post," because again, I think when you dive into content, you quickly see that a lot of the time when businesses are posting, they don't tend to get a lot of engagement, right? Like most of the engagement's usually from founders' personal profile pages. So this is a strategy too, right? Like if there's less people kind of showing up, by you being one of those that comments, you kind of get seen a little bit more easily. And so she had seen my comment, reached out, noticed that I helped with LinkedIn personal brand building and said, our CEO would love to build out, her content. We would love to talk to you more about this. I think this is a really good strategy, especially like, for the folks that aren't even wanting to post all the time, but they want to show up. This is a really easy way to do that, of like baking in that time to try to like get themselves out there and meet more people.
I think that's an extremely great example of a tactic within the strategy of basically networking is what we're talking about. But it's like digital form of networking when you think about it. You're just putting yourself out there in a good way, which tells me, right, if you want this tactic, if you want this strategy to work, which is basically showing up in the rooms where your clients are and standing out, what do we need to work for the strategy to work? What's the first thing in your opinion?
I mean, I advise everybody to take a good look at their profile page first before you even spend a lot of activity of posting and commenting, because say the comment resonates, they click on your profile to visit you. What if that message isn't strong enough to say what it is you do and who you help? We always start with that. I want you to have a solid foundation. I want it to be super clear, and I want your differentiators just to shine so that when people come and they click on that, they know immediately, is this someone that can help me, or is this somebody I can collaborate with, or is this somebody I can refer someone else to? Then you start to kind of dig into, okay, if I want to get more clients and I know who my ideal customer is, then I need to focus on those people posting to make comments on their post. So that's where I would kind of lead people to next, to kind of give them direction and a plan of like, okay, this is how we put this into action. But definitely got to make sure you have a good foundation there before you start with all this activity, or I just feel like it's not as powerful or effective as it could be, right?
That totally makes sense, having your profile cleaned up. Because the whole point of a good comment, is to get somebody to click on your face right there on LinkedIn, and tap on your face, like your example where they reach out and say, I saw that this is something you help with.
Your headline plays into that too, right? So I don't know if a lot of people understand this, but the first 40 or so characters are what's visible on mobile. And with over half of people going on LinkedIn and scrolling and searching from their phones, that first 40 characters in your headline are the most important. Does it clearly talk to what you do in a very like understandable way and who it is that you help? Because that also, I think, helps in terms of people really understanding fast of like, oh, yeah, okay, that's what they do. Well, I was thinking about needing this service, or I know somebody that does. Let me click in to find out more. So that's another piece, I think, that goes right along with that profile page optimization that's really important that you have very solid before you spend all this time commenting and trying to engage, with people.
Yeah, we've had the discussion about headlines with a ghostwriter in the past, Sam Swirsky. And one thing I don't think we talked about, and I was curious what your thoughts were about, should you have something that's curiosity inducing or something that's clear? So for example, My headline says, forget AI, clients want you, that's where I help. And I've gotten feedback. I love that. Like it got people to click. But then, it's not clear on what I do because it's curiosity provoking, it's a mystery. They have to click to find out. What's your take on that?
I think that's the wonderful thing about LinkedIn. We can always shake things up a little bit. I tend to go for clarity over being clever most of the time, especially for people who need, something and they have you go to their page and they have no banner and their headline is just a few things. So I tend to always shoot first for clarity. But say you've been on the platform for a while. And I think with your example that you just gave, you and I both know AI is the topic of the year, of the decade, whatever. So people are very in tune with that. And so I think just by you adding that in, it shows hey, I'm relevant. I'm paying attention. Do you want to read more and understand what I'm talking about and what this is kind of leading into? And since you've been on the platform and you've kind of established yourself to a certain degree, right? I think at that stage, you can probably play around with being a little bit more clever at times because you can always go back, right? But you said it yourself, you had some good feedback that it actually caused people to click. And hey, I think there's nothing better than understanding from people firsthand how they're perceiving you. So if that's working for you right now and that's getting people to click and talk to you, stick with it, right? That's the great thing about marketing. We're always trying to experiment to some level. I don't think there's a guidebook necessarily on you got to do it exactly like this. And these are the steps you need to go through. And these are the rules and you got to stick to it all the time. No, we can mix it up a bit because we're all human and we love a little bit of that surprise. We all get bored.
I feel like there's a whole discussion here about headlines too. Because even as I said, I'm thinking, well, you're getting poor fit folks to click on your profile who are not interested in what I do. So I used to have, for example, something about thought leadership videos, which is very clear. So if somebody not interested in thought leadership or they're not interested in video, they would never click. But if somebody did click, there's a very high chance they're interested in that at some level. So to your point, right, if we think about this, I get way more profile viewers now, but are they more specific to what I want to sell, even as referral partners, right? And I don't know. So you mentioned one very specific tactic, which I love. What are some other ones you found success with?
Another one that I think a lot of people don't think about either is when they're seeing articles. So articles tend to be something that's published a lot under business pages versus personal profile pages. And they too aren't always getting a lot of comments on them. And just by you, if it's an article that resonates or something that kind of complements what you do or how you can help, it's awesome to be able to leave that comment. Because again, you have less competition of how many people are typically showing up in that section. So immediately, you're going to be seen in that way. So I think that's another really good one. And I know you do video content, but video content is another one where I think when you do see videos that really resonate with you and you comment, that's something that people pay attention to because as you and I both know, it's kind of changed over time with impressions, where we saw a huge spike in 2024 and then we've seen more of a decline here in 2025. But you and I've talked about, there's a ton of value still in showing your face and having someone visualize what the dialogue would be, between you and that other person. They can kind of start to get an idea of what would it be like to work with her? Because I can kind of tell just a little bit, just the way she is on camera and just, leaving a comment in that way. I think I kind of perk up on my video stuff when people leave comments because it's oh, okay, they actually saw me. And what was that comment that they left? Does it seem like there's somebody that wants to collaborate with me or, work with me or whatnot? So I would say those are some areas that I've seen where you can comment and get some exposure.
When I comment, for example, I have a list of, I think it's 40-ish people that I have subscribed to all of their notifications. So every morning I log in, I don't go to my LinkedIn feed. I go to my notifications and I see such and such has posted. So-and-so Allison Ditmer posted. And I can go through and I can quickly scroll because LinkedIn lets you see the preview and I can see what's quickly relevant for me. And then tap in on that, read it, consume it, watch it, whatever. And then I add my little comment about, the adding value. Hopefully you're giving a different take on it or whatever. And that's how I'm really efficient with my commenting. But that's just one way. You just described two other ways.
To add to that. So I love that because yes, in the notifications, like you said, you can kind of get a little snippet of what they're talking about to see if it's truly relevant to you to click in and potentially leave a comment on. The other thing, and this is in one of my newsletter issues that I sent out through the Content Cup, I talked about, for like you said, it's easy for us to like go on the platform and get stuck in the feed, right? And so then we're scrolling, and then are we really spending the best time, with what we have? Like, honestly, most of the time I'm not, if I approach it that way and I'm going in and just scrolling. This one tip that I gave that seemed to help, people, and it resonated with, I have a document and I've outlined, like big creators, like creators that I love to read their content because I'm always learning from it and they kind of inspire me and it's stuff I look forward to. Then I've got a group of what I call like my peers, my friends. So these are the people I want to continuously like support. They're more of the individuals that I want to collaborate with or just like check in with and be like, how are you feeling about your business? What's going on? And then I've got my group of like current clients and past clients. And then there's a fourth group of people that I would potentially love to work with that I want to pay attention to. So it's like segmenting those groups out, having their name with the URL to their profile. And if I don't want to get stuck in the feed, or I don't, for some odd, for whatever reason, don't go into the notifications, I pull up that document and I start going through and clicking. So it takes me right to that individual's profile and I can see what their latest post was, and takes a little bit more time than the notifications. But it helps me stay focused on certain people.
My system is very much scattered within. I have the Jay Klauses of the world, the Allison Ditmers of the world, and I have a couple potential clients in there. Not too many of those because a lot of our clients aren't regular on LinkedIn. That's one of the reasons they work with us. But, there's a mix like that. And if I audited it, I don't even know what the breakdown would be. So your system does solve that problem.
Like, depending on your goals of where you're kind of at in the month, we've all been there. Do you need to generate more business? Well, if you need to generate more business, then if you have limited time, your focus needs to be on potential people you want to work with, past clients that you've worked with, because, their network sees that you're commenting on their stuff and then they're raising the flag of like, oh, do they know each other? Oh, wait, maybe she worked with her. That starts to kind of like come together, because many of the times our clients also have people in their networks that could also, benefit from our services. So it just depends. And then there's times where it's like, oh, I'm pretty busy. I just really want to get into learning more. So like I hit up the bigger creators first, and I'm like, want to see what they're doing. And I know we're talking about commenting. There is a strategy as well that if you're trying to create more awareness and impression numbers, comment thoughtfully on the bigger creators with bigger audiences. I have had several comments reach thousands of impressions and way more impressions than some of my posts, than a lot of my posts, So like there's a strategy there that if you're just trying to get more eyeballs on who you are by commenting on these people with larger audiences, it's crazy the impression numbers I've seen on those.
Well, Allison, I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm trusting that our listeners, our viewers have as well. Where can we learn more about you?
LinkedIn. I mean, that's where I'm at pretty much 7 days a week. If I'm not posting, I'm commenting, I'm reading, I'm sending DM messages. So that is the place to go.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.